Hey there and welcome back to the garden. Today we're going to turn these three individually potted agaves into one giant agave bouquet. They'll all end up in this vase-shaped pot that I got from a client's house when I was redoing their backyard. I initially was going to bring it to the dump, but I figured I would save it and use it in my own garden. It sat in the corner of my old yard for about a year before I put anything in it. The way these were showcased in my old garden was great because they were in a much more open space, but now it just feels cluttered here in the new garden. And it's time to consolidate them into one bouquet. We'll start by giving the prep area a quick blow. Our neighbor has bamboo along the fence line that drops leaves in our backyard all year long. Alright, let's lay out all the ingredients for our bouquet. First we got the blue flame agave, then we got the foxtail agave, and last but not least, we got the very heavy, variegated foxtail agave. You'll notice in the variegated foxtail agave, there's a whole bunch of this green plant. It's actually called a wandering dude, and it has a really beautiful blue flower on it. I really do like it, but as we're doing this repotting, I'm going to get rid of it. I left some of the roots in there, so I'm sure it'll come back as I start watering it again. The wandering dude actually made its way into the pot from my old yard. Somehow it jumped up and got in there, and it'll be with me forever. It is so hard to get rid of. With the vase cleaned up, it's time to start getting the other agaves ready. So I recently repotted these a few months ago, so that's why there's not much of a root ball left, but they are sprouting new roots on it, so that's a good sign. And the agave blue flame has a much bigger root ball on it, so that's a really good sign. So once we get these in the vase, they'll definitely become a lot more established than if we were putting fresh cuttings in this pot. I'm also going to take this opportunity to clean up some of the damaged and dying leaves at the bottom of these agaves so they look nice and pristine when we're done with the repotting. The foxtail leaves come off super easily, but the agave blue flame leaves are a lot tougher. The sides of them are covered in tiny razor sharp spikes, so it's hard to really just grab it and pull it off without giving it a little bit of a cut to make it weaker. I should be wearing gloves doing this, but it was really hot and I didn't feel like going back in the sun to go grab them. The Japanese sod knife just makes it super easy to get these super fine cuts without actually cutting the rest of the plant. The blue flame agave isn't doing too hot, so I ended up pulling off a lot of leaves from it. I didn't have to trim the variegated foxtail at all, but the regular foxtail is looking so much better. The blue flame is not looking good right now. It should have a much deeper blue throughout the leaves, but it is very underwatered. This is what a well taken care of, well watered, well fertilized agave looks like. All the colors are popping, the streaks throughout it, just beautiful. Now that everything's trimmed up, it's time to start placing them in the vase. I'm going to start with the agave that has the biggest root ball because it's going to demand the most space. I placed it in there in the spot that I wanted it, but it just wasn't going deep enough, so I tried to pull some dirt out with my hands, but the variegated agave has grown such a robust root system, and my hands just weren't cutting it, so I had to grab a shovel to break up the roots and loosen the soil so we could get the agave where we want it. With the soil loosened, let's just take a couple handfuls out and place the blue flame in place. Just like that, fits like a glove. I took the foxtail agave and threaded it between the other two plants. I think that it'll create a really cool crisscross of trunks as the plants grow and kind of emerge out of the top of the vase. You'll get a better view of what it looks like when I do a close-up in a second. I'm using some of the leftover soil from the foxtail agave pot because it's already pre-mixed cactus soil that I made not that long ago. Please excuse the bamboo rubbing against our fence, it happens all day long. I absolutely love the way the trunks look up close, and cannot wait to watch these things grow and slink their way out of the pot. There's a lot of dead space around all the trunks, so I'm adding soil to not only give them a place to grow roots, but also to keep them standing upright and growing in the direction that we want them to grow in. Let's add a little bit more on top for good measure, and tuck them all in nice and tight for their long ride to the front yard. It's this part of the repotting process that takes the longest for me. I feel like I can just keep adding more and more dirt, but I need to just step away because I know it will be fine. The soil will settle and I can always add more dirt in the future. We'll give it one quick spin before we load it onto the dolly and bring it back to its home in the front yard. During its perilous journey, the foxtail agave fell out of place and the soil is just not holding it anymore. So I grabbed a concrete casting I made of a friend's face of mine to use as a prop to kind of hold it up. And as I was placing it, I realized the agave looked like hair coming out the top of the head, and I think it'll be a really cool touch to the front yard. Let's take one final moment to admire the hard work we've done today. As we all know, the yard work never ends, so please subscribe to follow me along this gardening journey.